So Stuart's phone lit up on the couch during our Friday movie night, and the preview message said something about a whale. And I was so confused because, like, why would his friend Jackson be texting him about marine life at 9 p.m.? And I just grabbed it to hand it to him because we were watching some action movie, and he'd been waiting for his buddy to text back about their gaming plans for the weekend. Stuart had been fighting a cold all week, and right as I picked up his phone, he started coughing really hard, like that gross phlegmy cough where you know you need to deal with it immediately. He grabbed the phone from me and basically ran to the bathroom because he needed to blow his nose and didn't want to be disgusting in front of me, which honestly I appreciated at the time because nobody wants to watch that. But here's the thing that makes me want to scream into the void. He was so focused on getting to the bathroom before he had a full sinus explosion that he forgot to lock the phone. The screen was still on when another message popped up from the same group chat, and it said, "Is that whale still talking?" with like 3 crying laughing emojis. I sat there on my couch that I've been paying for in my apartment, and I opened that group chat because something in my gut just knew this was about me, and oh my god was I right. This man had been in a group chat with Jackson and 2 other guys named Josiah and Johnny, and they'd been absolutely destroying me. But it wasn't even just them talking shit. Stuart had been recording me, like actual voice recordings and videos, me talking about my day at work, me laughing at something funny on TikTok, me singing happy birthday to my mom Virginia over FaceTime in August. And every single recording had a caption, "Someone please kill me. This pig won't shut up. How much longer do I have to pretend to care? She's singing again, somebody save me." I kept scrolling and my hands were shaking, but not from being sad. I was pissed. Jackson sent a message in July asking why Stuart hadn't dumped me yet if I was so annoying. And Stuart's response? I screenshot this one first because I knew I'd need it. He said, "She's so desperate for love, it's hilarious. Free meals, her BMW, that apartment. I'm living like a king while she plans our wedding, lol." This man had been living in my apartment for 9 months rent-free, driving my car whenever he wanted, eating food I bought, and apparently just absolutely hating every second with me while his friends cheered him on. There was another text from September where Stuart told them I'd bought him a PS5 for his birthday, thinking he'd propose soon. Josiah responded, "Bro, you're a genius, this is the best scam ever." And Stuart sent back, "I know, right? She even pays for my gym membership because I told her we should get healthy together before the wedding." What wedding? We'd talked about maybe getting married someday, but I never pushed it. I just mentioned once that I thought we had a good thing going and could see a future. That was IT. And this man turned it into his entire justification for using me. I pulled out my own phone and started taking pictures of everything. Screen after screen. Every cruel message, every recording, every instance of them laughing about how stupid I was. My phone's camera roll was just screenshot after screenshot, and I made sure to get the dates, the full conversations, the whole context. The bathroom door opened and Stuart came back out sounding all stuffed up, talking about how Jackson wanted to know if we were still down for that barbecue at his place next weekend, and I smiled. I smiled at him and said, "Yeah, totally, that sounds fun," and asked if he wanted me to make my potato salad that everyone always requests. He kissed my forehead and sat back down next to me on the couch, put his arm around me, kept watching the movie like nothing happened. Meanwhile, I had about 200 screenshots on my phone of him calling me a whale and a pig and desperate and stupid. I couldn't even focus on the movie. My brain was going a million miles an hour trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to scream at him right then, but something told me to wait, to be smart about this. Because if he'd been playing a long game with me, I could play one too. The next morning was Saturday, and Stuart asked if he could borrow my car to go meet Jackson at the gym. But I said, "Sure, babe," handed him my keys with a smile. And the second he left, I went through every single thing he'd left in my apartment. His laptop was password protected, but his iPad wasn't because he mainly used it for watching sports. I opened his messages app and it synced with his phone. Even more conversations. Turns out there was a separate chat with just Jackson where they talked about me even worse. Jackson kept asking when Stuart was gonna trade up, and Stuart said he was waiting until after the holidays because I'd probably buy him a bunch of expensive stuff for Christmas. He was planning to use me through Christmas and then dump me. I found voice memos on his iPad too. Recordings he'd made of me without my knowledge. Me on the phone with my mom talking about how happy I was that Stuart and I were doing so well. Me telling my friend Rachel that I thought Stuart might be the one. Me literally just existing in my own home. And this man was recording it to send to his friends for entertainment. My whole relationship was a joke to him. 9 months of my life. I'd introduced him to my family. My mom loved him. My dad thought he was great. We'd gone on vacation together in July, and I paid for most of it because Stuart said his job at his uncle's auto parts store wasn't paying great and he was trying to save up. Now I'm realizing he probably just didn't want to spend his own money when mine was available. He worked at this small shop that his Uncle Richard owned, doing inventory and helping customers, and he always made it sound like money was tight. But looking back at these messages, he had plenty of money. He just preferred spending mine. I sent all the screenshots and recordings to myself through his iPad. Then I cleared the sent messages so he wouldn't know. I downloaded everything to my laptop and backed it up on a flash drive. Then I put his iPad back exactly where I found it. Stuart came home 3 hours later, all sweaty and cheerful, talking about his workout and asking what I wanted to do for dinner. I suggested we order from his favorite place. my treat. He didn't even hesitate to say yes. We spent Saturday night eating pasta and watching TV, and I laughed at his jokes and cuddled with him, and the entire time I was thinking about those messages. About him calling me a whale, about his friends calling me a pig, about all of them laughing at how desperate and stupid I was. Sunday, he asked if I wanted to go to the mall because he needed new shoes. I said sure, and we went, and I watched him try on like 6 different pairs of Nikes. He made comments about which ones looked best and asked my opinion, and I gave it. Then at the register, he looked at me expectantly, and I realized he wanted me to pay for his shoes. Like always. I pulled out my card and bought him the shoes. $85. The cashier asked if I wanted to add them to my rewards account, and I said yes, with the biggest smile. Stuart carried the bag and held my hand through the mall and told me I was the best girlfriend ever. The best girlfriend ever. While he had months of messages calling me a whale. Monday, he went to work at the auto parts store, and I called in sick. I wasn't actually sick, but I needed time to think, to plan. Because here's what I knew. If I just confronted him, he'd probably lie. He'd gaslight me. He'd tell me I was misunderstanding or being crazy, or that it was just guy talk and didn't mean anything. But I had evidence, screenshots, recordings, dates, context, everything. I also knew that his name wasn't on my lease. He'd moved in gradually over the months, first staying over a lot, then bringing more stuff, until basically he just lived here. But legally, this was my apartment. The car was in my name, the furniture was mine, everything here was mine except his clothes and that stupid PS5 I'd bought him. Tuesday. Stuart asked if we could have his mom Brenda over for dinner on Thursday. He said she'd been asking to see our place and meet me properly since we'd only met twice before at family events. I said sure, I'd love to cook for her. He seemed so happy about it. Kissed me and told me he was lucky to have me. Said his mom would love me just like he did. I smiled and started planning the menu. Wednesday night, Stuart came home with flowers. Flowers. Said he just saw them at the grocery store and thought of me. They were daisies, my favorite. And I wanted to throw them at his face, but instead I put them in a vase and thanked him. He told me he loved me. He said it right to my face. I love you, babe. And I said it back. Because I needed him to think everything was normal. That I had no idea what he'd been doing behind my back for months. Thursday morning I woke up and Stuart was already in the shower getting ready for work. His phone was on the nightstand charging. I grabbed it. The group chat had new messages from overnight. Jackson sent a meme about annoying girlfriends. Josiah replied, "Dude, is Stuart still milking that whale?" And Johnny said, "My boy's a legend getting all that free stuff." Stuart responded at 6 a.m. while I was still asleep next to him. "Almost done with this ride, LOL. After holidays, I'm out. Already got my eye on this girl from the gym. After holidays." He was already planning his exit and his next target. I took more screenshots and put his phone back. That evening, Brenda came over at 6 and I'd made this whole nice dinner. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, homemade rolls. I set the table with my nice dishes and lit candles. Brenda walked in and immediately started complimenting everything. The apartment, the food, how nice I looked. Stuart was all proud, showing her around like he did something. Like he decorated or paid for anything. Dinner was so weird because I'm sitting there making small talk with his mother while knowing her son thinks I'm a whale he's scamming. Brenda kept saying how happy she was that Stuart found someone so wonderful and put together. She asked about wedding plans and Stuart laughed it off, saying we were taking things slow, and I just smiled and said whenever it's right, it's right. After dinner, Brenda asked to see photos of us together. I pulled out my phone and started showing her pictures from our vacation, from various dates, from us just hanging out. She was gushing about how cute we were and how happy Stuart looked in all of them. And something snapped in me. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep smiling. But I also knew this wasn't the right time. Not with his mom there. Not yet. So I excused myself to the kitchen to get dessert, and I stood there for a second, just breathing. And when I came back out, I had pie and ice cream and another smile. Brenda left around 9, saying she had such a wonderful time, and that I was such a keeper, and Stuart better not mess this up. Stuart walked her to her car, and when he came back inside, he was grinning. He said dinner went perfectly. That his mom loved me. That everything was working out great. I asked him what he meant by working out. And he said, you know, us. Our relationship. Our future together. Our future. This man really thought he had a future with me after what he'd been saying. Friday morning, Stuart left for the auto parts store early because his Uncle Richard needed help with some big inventory shipment. He kissed me goodbye and told me to have a great day. I went to work but left at lunch. Drove to a UPS store and printed out every single screenshot I'd taken. Hundreds of pages. Then I went to an office supply store and bought folders and labels. I spent Friday afternoon organizing everything. Chronologically. By conversation. By person. I made it detailed. I made it thorough. Then I put it all in my closet in the back where Stuart never looked. Friday night, he wanted to go out to dinner with Jackson and some other friends. Asked if I wanted to come. I said no, I was tired, but he should go have fun. He seemed almost relieved that I wasn't coming. Probably because then he could talk about me without me there. He left around 7 and I sat in my apartment alone thinking about everything. About the 9 months I'd spent with this person. About how I'd thought we were building something real. About my family meeting him and liking him. About the vacation we took and the holidays coming up and the life I thought we were working toward. And about how none of it was real. how all of it was him using me while laughing at me with his friends. My phone buzzed, and it was my mom asking how things were going with Stuart, and if we were still coming over for Sunday dinner this weekend. I told her yes, we'd be there. Because I needed everything to seem normal, just a little bit longer. Stuart came home around midnight a little drunk, talking about how fun the night was. He passed out in bed and started snoring immediately. I laid there next to him staring at the ceiling, and I realized something. I wasn't sad, I was angry, and I was done being nice about it. Monday was going to be very interesting. Update: Sunday dinner at my parents' house was absolutely brutal. We drove over in my BMW, the one Stuart uses whenever he wants, and the whole time he's being all cute and affectionate, holding my hand, asking if I think my dad will want to watch the game with him after dinner. And I'm just sitting there thinking about that message where he called me a whale and how he's planning to dump me after Christmas once he gets all his presents. My mom, Virginia, answered the door and immediately hugged Stuart like he was her own son. She'd made pot roast because she remembered it was his favorite from the last time we visited. My dad was in the living room and got up to shake Stuart's hand, asking about work at the auto parts store, and if his Uncle Richard was still thinking about expanding the business. Stuart launched into this whole story about how Richard might open a second location, and how he was hoping to maybe manage it someday, and my parents were eating it up, talking about how ambitious he was, how it was so great that he had family who supported him, how rare it was to find young men with such a good work ethic these days. I wanted to scream. This man works part-time at a tiny auto parts shop and spends the rest of his time playing video games on the PS5 I bought him while living rent-free in my apartment. But sure, Dad, tell me more about his amazing work ethic. Dinner was torture. My mom kept asking about wedding plans, and Stuart did this bashful thing where he said we were taking our time, making sure we were really ready, and my mom just beamed at him like he was being so mature and thoughtful. She told me later when we were alone in the kitchen that I should hold on to this one, that men like Stuart don't come around often. I almost dropped the dish I was holding. My younger brother Jasper was there too, and he kept making jokes with Stuart about sports, and they were getting along great. And at one point Jasper said something about how Stuart was way cooler than my ex-boyfriend from college, and I should definitely marry this one. And Stuart laughed and put his arm around me and kissed my temple. The whole time I had my phone in my pocket with about 300 screenshots of him calling me a pig. After dinner, my dad and Stuart went to watch the game, and my mom pulled me aside to help with dishes. She started talking about how happy she was that I found someone so stable and kind, and how she could tell he really loved me by the way he looked at me. She said she'd never seen me this happy before. And I just stood there washing dishes thinking about how none of this was real. How my entire family had been fooled just like I had been. How Stuart had spent 9 months being the perfect boyfriend to my face while mocking everything about me to his friends behind my back. Mom asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, just tired from work. She said I'd been seeming stressed lately, and maybe Stuart and I should take a weekend trip together, just to relax and reconnect. She even offered to help pay for it. I told her that was sweet, but we were fine, and she hugged me and said she was just so relieved I found my person, who was planning to dump me after he got his Christmas presents. We left around 8, and Stuart was in such a good mood, talking about how much he loved my family and how lucky he was to have such welcoming future in-laws. Future in-laws. He kept using that phrase. And every time he said it, I gripped the steering wheel harder. When we got home, Stuart wanted to fool around, and I made up an excuse about having cramps, and he was actually really sweet about it, got me ibuprofen and a heating pad, and cuddled with me on the couch. And that somehow made it worse because this version of Stuart, the attentive, caring boyfriend version, felt like the biggest lie of all. Monday morning, I woke up and Stuart was already gone to work. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter saying his uncle needed him early for inventory, and he'd see me tonight, with a little heart drawn at the bottom. A heart. I stared at that note for like 5 minutes, thinking about how he probably drew that heart, while mentally composing his next message to his friends about what a desperate whale I was. At work, I could barely concentrate. My coworker Rachel kept giving me concerned looks, but I told her I was fine. During lunch, she cornered me in the parking lot by my car and asked point blank what was going on, because I'd been acting weird for over a week. And I cracked. I told her everything. About finding the messages, about the recordings, about how Stuart had been using me and mocking me for months. Rachel's face went through like 15 different expressions. Shock, anger, disgust. And then she got this look that I can only describe as vengeful. She asked what I was going to do, and I told her I didn't know yet, that I was still trying to figure it out. She offered to help however I needed, said I could stay at her place if I wanted to kick him out, whatever I needed. I appreciated that so much, but I told her I wasn't ready to do anything yet, that I needed to think. She looked at me like I was crazy, but she backed off and made me promise to keep her updated. Monday night, Stuart came home with takeout from my favorite place. He said he thought I deserved a treat after being stressed lately, and I sat there eating pad that he'd paid for with my credit card. Because yeah, I checked the bank app while he was in the bathroom and saw the charge, while he talked about his day like nothing was wrong. He told me his Uncle Richard was really impressed with his work lately and might give him more responsibilities, that he was thinking about asking for a raise, that things were really looking up for us, for US, like we were a team, like he wasn't actively planning to abandon me in 2 months. Tuesday, I had to go to the DMV because my license was expiring soon, and I needed to renew it. I was sitting in those uncomfortable plastic chairs waiting for my number to be called when I saw Jackson, Stuart's best friend Jackson, the one who'd been in that group chat calling me a whale. He was there renewing his registration or something, and he saw me and came over with this big friendly smile. Asked how I was doing, said Stuart had mentioned we went to my parents' place for dinner, and it sounded nice. He was being so normal and friendly, and I wanted to punch him in the face. But instead, I smiled back and made small talk about how the DMV always took forever, and wasn't it annoying? And Jackson laughed and agreed, and then he said something that made my blood boil. He said Stuart was lucky to have someone so sweet and understanding, that his last girlfriend was really high maintenance, and it was nice seeing him with someone more chill, meaning more of a pushover who let him get away with whatever he wanted. Wednesday, my mom texted asking if I wanted to go Christmas shopping with her on Saturday. She said we could make a day of it, hit the mall, get lunch, maybe find some decorations for my apartment since Stuart would probably be spending Christmas with us this year. She asked if I'd talked to him about what he wanted as a gift yet. I stared at that text for so long, because I knew Stuart had a whole wish list on his phone. A strategic list of expensive items he was planning to manipulate me into buying before dumping me. Gaming chair, AirPods, smartwatch, designer sneakers. I texted back saying Saturday shopping sounded great, and I'd figure out Stuart's gift situation. Wednesday night, Stuart asked if I could help him with something. He pulled up this website for gaming chairs on my laptop and started showing me different models, talking about how his current setup was hurting his back, and how much better he could focus with proper support. He mentioned one specific chair that was on sale, a really good deal, normally like $400 but marked down to $300. This was it. This was the manipulation I'd seen in his notes. The strategic mention of the sale to make it seem like a bargain, the health angle to make it seem necessary, the casual way he was bringing it up like it just occurred to him. I played along, asked questions about features, nodded when he explained why this chair was better than others, watched him light up thinking his plan was working perfectly. Then he casually mentioned that his birthday wasn't until January, but Christmas gifts were cool too, and he'd be so grateful if I could help him out with getting something like this. That he'd make it up to me somehow. Make it up to me. With what, exactly? With more months of calling me a whale? With more recordings sent to his friends for entertainment? I told him I'd think about it, and he kissed me and said I was the best, and went back to his game looking so pleased with himself. Thursday, I went to Target after work because I needed groceries, and also I just needed to get out of my apartment. I was walking through the store when I heard someone call my name. I turned around and it was Brenda, Stuart's mom. She was there shopping for Halloween candy, even though Halloween had already passed, said it was on clearance and she liked to stock up. She gave me a big hug and started talking about how wonderful dinner was last week, how much she enjoyed getting to know me better, how she could tell I was such a good influence on Stuart. A good influence, because apparently before me he was, what, even worse? Brenda linked her arm through mine and walked with me through the store, chatting about random stuff. She mentioned that Stuart had been talking about maybe looking at engagement rings soon, that he'd asked her opinion on styles. She said this with a knowing smile, like we were sharing a secret. My stomach dropped, because Stuart had not mentioned anything about engagement rings to me, which meant either he was lying to his mother to keep up appearances, or this was part of his long game. Keep everyone convinced we were heading toward marriage so nobody questioned why he was still living with me rent-free. Brenda asked if I had any preferences for ring styles, if Stuart had shown me anything yet. I made something up about liking simple designs, classic styles, not wanting anything too flashy. She nodded along and said Stuart had good taste, that whatever he picked would be beautiful. We checked out at the same time and Brenda hugged me goodbye in the parking lot, told me to take care of her boy. Her boy who was actively scamming me and planning to dump me. I sat in my car for like 20 minutes after she left, just processing. Stuart's mom liked me. My family loved him. Everyone thought we were this perfect couple heading toward marriage. And it was all based on lies. Thursday night, Stuart's phone kept buzzing during dinner. He kept checking it and smirking at something, and finally I asked who was texting him. He said just the group chat, the guys being idiots as usual. Then he put his phone face down and asked about my day. I told him about running into his mom at Target. His face lit up and he asked what she said. If she mentioned anything about next month when his aunt was having Thanksgiving. I said no, just small talk. She seemed happy to see me. Stuart smiled and said his whole family loved me. That his mom had told him multiple times how glad she was we were together. That I was exactly the kind of girl he should settle down with, while he planned to dump me. After dinner, I told Stuart I needed to do some work stuff on my laptop. Instead, I opened his iPad that he'd left on the coffee table. I'd been checking it obsessively now, looking for new messages, new evidence, new ways he was mocking me. There was a new group chat message from Tuesday night. Jackson had sent a photo from the DMV, a photo of Emmy sitting in those plastic chairs waiting for my number to be called. He'd secretly photographed me and sent it with the caption, "Look who I ran into, LOL." Stuart had responded, "Did she seem suspicious at all?" Jackson said, "Nah, she's clueless. We talked and everything was normal." Josiah chimed in, "Bro, how does she not know yet?" And Stuart replied, because she's desperate and sees what she wants to see. Plus, I'm careful. She's not smart enough to catch on. Not smart enough. Not smart enough. I wanted to throw the iPad across the room. Instead, I took screenshots like I'd been doing, methodically saving every new piece of evidence. The photo Jackson took of me, Stuart asking if I seemed suspicious, all of them laughing about how clueless I was. There was more. A new voice memo from Wednesday. Stuart whispering to Jackson on the phone while I was in the shower. I could hear him saying he'd successfully planted the seed about the gaming chair, that I'd definitely buy it, that his Christmas haul was going to be amazing. Jackson laughed and said Stuart was a mastermind, for manipulating his girlfriend. I sent everything to myself and cleared the history. Then I closed the iPad and went back to the bedroom where Stuart was already in bed scrolling his phone. He looked up when I came in and patted the bed next to him, told me to come cuddle. Friday morning, Stuart asked if I'd thought more about the gaming chair, said he really needed it for his back, that he'd been having pain from sitting weird while gaming. He gave me these puppy dog eyes and I could see exactly what he was doing. The manipulation, the fake vulnerability, the expectation that I'd cave and buy it. I told him I needed to think about it some more, that it was a lot of money. He looked disappointed but said he understood, that he didn't want to pressure me. Then he mentioned that if I couldn't do the chair, maybe the AirPods would be more affordable, that he'd been wanting to upgrade his old headphones, the AirPods that were also on his strategic manipulation list. At work, Rachel asked if I'd decided what to do yet. I told her no, that I was still processing everything. She looked frustrated and said I needed to stop processing and start acting, that every day I waited was another day he was using me. And she was right. I knew she was right. But something in me needed more. Needed to see exactly how far he'd go. Needed to catch him in as many lies as possible before I blew everything up. Friday night, Stuart wanted to go out with Jackson and the guys. I said, sure, have fun. He asked if I was sure I didn't want to come along, and I said I was tired, I'd probably just watch TV and go to bed early. He left around 7, and I immediately grabbed his iPad. I needed to see what he'd say about me when he was out with his friends. If he'd record me again, if there'd be more mockery. But what I found was worse. There was a new conversation in a different chat. Just Stuart and someone named Bethany. And the messages were flirty. Really flirty. Bethany was the gym girl he'd mentioned, the one he was planning to date after dumping me. They'd been talking for weeks. Since mid-October. She'd sent him photos of herself working out. He'd complimented her. They'd made plans to hang out once his situation was handled. She'd asked when that would be, and he'd said soon, just waiting for the right time. Bethany asked if his girlfriend suspected anything, and Stuart said no, that I was completely clueless, that he had everything under control. She sent a photo of herself in workout clothes with the caption, "Can't wait for you to be free so we can finally go out properly." And Stuart responded with fire emojis and said, "Soon, babe, I promise. Just gotta ride this out through the holidays." He was calling another girl babe, while living in my apartment, while I paid for everything, while planning to scam Christmas presents out of me before dumping me for her. I took screenshots of everything with Bethany. Every flirty message, every photo she'd sent, every time he'd called me clueless or talked about his situation that needed to be handled. There were dozens of messages. They'd been talking constantly, making plans for after he left me, talking about where they'd go on their first real date. Him promising her it would be soon. I sat on my couch surrounded by evidence of my boyfriend's betrayal, and I realized something. This wasn't just about him using me for money anymore. This was him actively cheating on me, emotionally if not physically yet, while making me look like an idiot to everyone. Monday I was going to end this, but I was going to do it my way. And Stuart was going to realize that the clueless whale he'd been scamming for 9 months was a lot smarter than he thought. Rachel was right. It was time to stop processing and start acting. Last update. Okay, so I'm writing this and I'm still on such an adrenaline high that I can barely type straight. And I need to tell you everything because what I did was absolutely insane, but also the most empowering thing I've ever done in my life, and I have zero regrets. After my last update, so many of you said I needed to confront Stuart immediately, just kick him out and be done with it. And I was planning to. I really was. But then Saturday night after shopping with my mom, I had an idea. A brilliant, petty, absolutely perfect idea. Christmas was in 3 weeks. Stuart was planning to use me through the holidays and then dump me. He had his manipulation list ready, his exit strategy planned, his new girl Bethany waiting in the wings. So I decided to let him think he was winning. Let him think his plan was working perfectly, and then destroy him in the most spectacular way possible. Sunday I acted completely normal. Cuddled with Stuart on the couch, laughed at his jokes, pretended everything was fine. He had no idea I'd shown my mom the screenshots. No idea I'd cried in the mall food court. He just thought we were having a nice relaxing weekend. Monday I called my brother Jasper from work. I told him everything. Everything. Showed him the screenshots, the recordings, the messages with Bethany, Stuart's Christmas manipulation list. Jasper was furious. He started saying he was going to come over and beat Stuart's ass, and I had to calm him down. Then I told him my plan. And Jasper started laughing. He said it was brilliant and he was absolutely in. I spent Monday and Tuesday nights after Stuart fell asleep creating a slideshow. Every screenshot organized chronologically. The group chat messages calling me a whale and a pig. The voice memo transcripts where Stuart said being intimate with me made him want to vomit. The conversations with Bethany, his strategic Christmas manipulation list with notes on how to convince me to buy each item, the photo Jackson took of me at the DMV, everything. I set it all to music. Some sad piano song that would make it extra dramatic. I added title slides between sections. What Stuart says to my face, followed by screenshots of him telling me he loves me. Then, what Stuart says behind my back, followed by him calling me a whale. Stuart's Christmas strategy with his entire manipulation list. Stuart's future plans with all the Bethany messages. It was perfect. Devastating and perfect. I sent it to Jasper Tuesday night and he texted back just, "Holy shit, this is going to be epic." Wednesday. Stuart asked again about the gaming chair. Said it was such a good deal and Christmas was coming up and he'd been thinking about it constantly. I told him I'd ordered it already. It should arrive next week. His face lit up. He hugged me and said I was the best girlfriend ever and he was so lucky. I smiled and thought about what was coming. Thursday, my mom called and said she'd been thinking about Christmas dinner, that she wanted to host since we hadn't had a big family gathering in a while. She asked if Stuart and I would come, and if maybe Stuart's family would want to join too since we were getting so serious. I told her that was a great idea, that I'd ask Stuart about inviting his mom Brenda and maybe his uncle Richard. Mom sounded surprised but happy. She had no idea what I was planning. Thursday night, I mentioned to Stuart that my mom wanted to do a big Christmas dinner and wanted to invite his family. Stuart got all excited and said that was amazing, that it would be great for our families to really get to know each other. He called his mom right then, and Brenda was thrilled. Said she'd love to come and she'd bring dessert. Everything was falling into place. Friday, the gaming chair arrived. I had it delivered to Rachel's apartment so Stuart wouldn't see it early. I wrapped it at her place Friday night while Stuart thought I was working late. Rachel kept saying I was a genius and she couldn't wait to hear how this went down. The next 2 weeks were torture. Playing the happy girlfriend. Watching Stuart get more and more confident that his plan was working. He'd added more items to his Christmas list. Started mentioning how nice a new watch would be. How his winter coat was getting old. How he really needed new headphones. I bought nothing else. Just the gaming chair that I was planning to return the second this was over. Stuart and I went Christmas shopping together one Saturday, and he kept steering us toward electronics stores, pointing out items casually. The AirPods he wanted. The smartwatch. I nodded along and took mental notes of every manipulation attempt. He bought me a present too. Wrapped it himself and put it under my little Christmas tree. I stared at that present every day thinking about how he'd probably spent my money. My mom called a few days before Christmas asking what I wanted her to make for dinner. I suggested all of Stuart's favorites. Prime rib, mashed potatoes, the fancy bread rolls he liked. Mom was confused why I was being so accommodating, but didn't question it. Christmas Eve, Stuart was in the best mood. Kept talking about tomorrow, about seeing both our families together, about what a big step this was for us. He'd been texting Bethany that morning. Yes, I was still checking his iPad, telling her just one more day of playing along and then after New Year he'd be free. One more day. He thought he had one more day. Christmas morning, Stuart gave me my present first. It was a cheap necklace from Target. I checked my bank app later and he'd spent $32 of my money on my Christmas present. We got to my parents' house around 2. Jasper's car was already there. So was Brenda's. And Uncle Richard's truck. Everyone was there. Both families mixing and chatting in the living room when we arrived. My mom hugged us both. My dad shook Stuart's hand. Brenda gave Stuart a big hug, and me a smaller one. Richard was talking to my dad about sports. Jasper was in the corner, and when he caught my eye, he gave me the tiniest nod. Everything was ready. Dinner was at 4. We all sat around my parents' big dining table. Mom and Dad at the ends, me and Stuart on one side, Jasper next to me, Brenda and Richard across from us. The table was beautiful. Mom had gone all out with decorations and candles and fancy dishes. Stuart was in heaven. Both families together, everyone getting along, him sitting there thinking he'd successfully manipulated everyone. He kept reaching over to hold my hand, kept telling everyone how lucky he was to have me, how this was the best Christmas ever. After dinner, my mom started clearing plates and I helped. In the kitchen, she whispered that everything seemed to be going well, that she was glad I was feeling better about things. I just smiled and said the night wasn't over yet. We brought out dessert, Brenda's homemade apple pie and my mom's cookies. Everyone was relaxed and full and happy. Stuart had his arm around my shoulders and was talking to Richard about possibly getting a truck someday. That's when I gave Jasper the signal. Just a little nod. Jasper pulled out his laptop and said, "Hey, everyone should see the slideshow he put together of me and Stuart's relationship. That he'd made it as a Christmas surprise and wanted to show it on the big TV in the living room." Stuart looked thrilled. Said that was so cool, he'd love to see it. Everyone else seemed interested too. We all moved to the living room and Jasper connected his laptop to my parents' TV. The slideshow started innocently. A few photos of me and Stuart from earlier in our relationship. Everyone going, "Aw, and so cute." Stuart squeezing my hand. Then the title slide appeared. The real story. And the first screenshot popped up. The group chat. Jackson asking, "Is that whale still talking?" With Stuart's messages below calling me a pig, a whale, desperate, annoying. Stuart's hand dropped from mine. He said, "What the fuck? What is this?" in this strangled voice. I didn't say anything, just watched the screen. More screenshots. Stuart telling his friends he was living like a king off my apartment and car and money. Stuart saying I was so desperate for love, it was hilarious. Stuart's voice memo transcripts where he said being intimate with me made him want to vomit. Brenda made this gasping sound. My mom's hand went to her mouth. My dad's face was getting red. Stuart stood up and said this isn't what it looks like. Those messages were taken out of context. Jasper, turn that off right now. Jasper didn't turn it off. The slideshow continued. Stuart's Christmas manipulation list. Every item he wanted with strategic notes on how to manipulate me into buying it. Mention gaming chair is on sale. Tell her AirPods would help with work calls. Say sneakers are good for our gym routine together. The gaming chair he'd just unwrapped was sitting in the corner of the room. Everyone's eyes went to it. Then the Bethany messages. Stuart calling another girl babe. Making plans to date her after dumping me. Telling her he just had to ride out the holidays first. Bethany's photos. Stuart saying, soon babe, I promise. Brenda stood up and said, Stuart, what the hell is this? Is this real? Tell me. This isn't real. Stuart was panicking. Saying it was all fake, that I'd edited these, that I was crazy and trying to ruin him. This was insane. I finally spoke. I asked him which part was fake. The part where he called me a whale for 9 months? The part where he recorded me without my consent and sent the recordings to his friends? The part where he made a strategic list of ways to manipulate me? Or the part where he's been cheating on me with Bethany from the gym? Stuart turned to me with pure rage on his face and said I'd violated his privacy. I'd gone through his phone without permission. I'd invaded his personal conversations. My dad stood up. My dad who never loses his temper. And he said Stuart needed to be very careful about his next words. Because from where he was standing, Stuart had been using his daughter, and he had about 10 seconds to get out of this house. Stuart tried to appeal to Brenda. Said, Mom, you have to believe me, she's twisting everything. I love her. I was just venting to friends sometimes, every guy does it. Brenda looked at her son with tears streaming down her face and said she'd seen enough. That those messages were in his words. That he'd been using me and lying to everyone, including her. That she'd raised him better than this and she was ashamed. Stuart started yelling, saying everyone was overreacting, that private messages between friends meant nothing, that he'd been a good boyfriend, he'd never actually cheated. The Bethany stuff was just flirting. Jasper stood up and got in Stuart's face. Said he had 3 seconds to get out before Jasper made him leave. Stuart tried to argue and Jasper literally started counting. 1, 2. Stuart grabbed his coat and stormed toward the door. Then he turned back and said he needed his gaming chair, that it was his Christmas present. I told him it was my money that bought it, my credit card on the receipt, legally my property, and he wasn't taking a damn thing. Stuart looked at everyone. His mom who was crying, my dad who looked ready to throw him out physically, my mom who was hugging me, Richard who was shaking his head in disgust, Jasper who was still standing ready to fight. And he left. Just walked out and slammed the door. The room was silent for a minute. Then Brenda came over to me sobbing and apologizing, saying she had no idea, that if she'd known she would have stopped it, that her son had turned into someone she didn't recognize. Richard said he was going to have a serious talk with Stuart about his behavior, that this was unacceptable on every level, that he was embarrassed to be related to someone who'd act this way. Jasper returned the gaming chair to the store the next day and gave me the refund money. I bought myself a nice dinner with it. But before that, and this is my favorite part, the day after Christmas, Jasper came over to my apartment with his car. I'd given him my spare key weeks ago as part of the plan. We spent 3 hours going through every single item Stuart had left behind. Every piece of clothing, every toiletry, every random thing he'd accumulated over 9 months of living in my apartment. Jasper loaded it all into giant black trash bags. And I mean everything. His Xbox that he'd had before we met. His clothes. His shoes. That stupid collection of baseball caps he thought made him look cool. His deodorant and shampoo. His charging cables. Every single thing. We filled like 8 massive bags and Jasper hauled them all down to the curb outside my apartment building. Just dumped them there on the street like the garbage they were. I took a photo of all those bags sitting on the curb and sent it to Stuart with the message, your stuff is outside. You have until trash pickup tomorrow morning to get it. After that, it's the city's problem. He called me 17 times in the next hour. I didn't answer a single one. He left voicemails screaming about his belongings, saying I couldn't just throw his stuff out, threatening to call the police. I sent him one more message. You're not on my lease. You never paid rent. Your stuff is outside my building. Come get it or don't. I don't care anymore. Jackson's car pulled up around 10 that night. I watched from my window as Stuart and Jackson scrambled to load all those trash bags into Jackson's tiny sedan. It took them 3 trips because they couldn't fit everything. Stuart kept looking up at my window, but I'd turned off all the lights so he couldn't tell if I was watching. Christmas night, my phone started blowing up. Stuart calling and calling and calling, voicemails of him screaming. I blocked every single number and turned off my phone. Jackson tried to message me defending Stuart. I sent him the screenshot of him photographing me at the DMV and mocking me, then blocked him too. The Nike shoes I'd bought him? Sold them on Facebook Marketplace. The PS5 went to Jasper officially as a late Christmas present. He's obsessed with it. I returned every other gift I'd bought Stuart. Got full refunds on everything. Used the money to take myself on a spa weekend with Rachel. We got massages and facials and drank champagne and celebrated me being free. New Year's Eve I spent at my parents' house. Just family. At midnight, Jasper raised his glass and said, "Here's to his big sister who's a badass and doesn't take garbage from anyone." Everyone cheered. My mom cried happy tears. My dad hugged me and said he was proud of me. It's been 2 weeks now since Christmas. Stuart tried calling once more last week from a number I didn't recognize. Left a voicemail saying he understood I was mad, but we needed closure. Could we please meet for coffee and talk like adults? I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. There's no closure needed. He showed me exactly who he was, and I showed him exactly who I am. End of story. Stuart wanted to ride things out through the holidays. Well, he got his Christmas memory, just not the one he was expecting.